trying to get out in that sun as much as possible now, have consumed vast quantities of suntan cream, and slight shadows are gradually appearing. The beach is so tempting.
I can't imagine myself spending my leisure time doing anything less challenging, lying on the beach for days on end. I would consider to be boring in the extreme, or doing anything else of an unactive, unchallenging nature.
I'm sure mountaineers hear the sound of a different drum, always escaping, always looking for the last great problem, the last blue mountain.
A lot of people have asked me how I feel, you're being so far away and doing such hazardous things as mountain climbing. The area is so remote and unknown to me. I can only imagine you're being on another long climbing trip in New Zealand. I'm only curious and jealous.
Expedition life is a simple life. You know, you're not worried. It's not a sort of life that gives you ulcers. It's not the 8 to 5 drag. You don't have to. There's no real worries. You're not surrounded by the problems of living. You know, sort of raising money for house mortgages, just getting across the street in the stream of traffic. The issues that are at stake are very simple issues, and sometimes they're just, when you're actually up high on a mountain, it's just the issue of life and death. If you fall off, the repercussions are going to be pretty damn serious.
Being leader of the expedition, as with most New Zealand mountaineering trips, was basically a matter of combining a large number of forces which were always working in different directions, very much an anarchy or a democracy at best.
As an expedition man, I know the excitement as mountain views come alive from long-studied photographs. You no longer feel a stranger in a foreign land, and the sense of unreality dissipates as things begin to roll according to plans drawn up years before.
When you take on an expedition, you are pitting your organisational skill against the world as much as anything else. There's a vast amount of work to do. I think if you knew at the outset everything that you had to do for the expedition, you'd give up immediately.
The Andes march the length of the South American continent from the equator to the Antarctic. In the far south is a wild, almost uninhabited region straddling the frontiers of Chile and Argentina. This is Patagonia, a gloomy labyrinth of mist-shrouded fjords on the west and stark, windswept pampas on the east. The sub-Antarctic climate produces glaciation so extensive that glacier snouts advance right down to the Pacific Ocean. Feeding many of these ice flows at 47 degrees south is a freak of nature, the Northern Patagonian Icecap. That this region remained virtually unexplored is due in part to the appalling weather conditions. Large areas of the ice cap had never been visited, an exciting prospect in the shrinking world. The approach would be from the east, up stormy Lake General Carrera, ringed with range after range of unnamed peaks, to a pleasant valley, culminating in the steep eastern escarpment of the Cordillera. Here, only 1,000 feet above sea level, a glacial lake had to be crossed and a route found up onto the ice cap.
Oh, sail! Oh, oh!
We did get a great deal of help from the peasants, or the Los Campesinos. They're quite proud to be called peasants. It's not a derogatory term as it tends to be in this country.
Everybody in the valley seemed to be related by marriage, if they weren't related by blood.
The farmers refused to accept cash payment for their services, saying that to be part of the expedition is reward enough. Living almost entirely outside the money economy, they have an independent pioneer existence, exchanging a bale of wool or a lamb for basic needs.
I had always rather imagined the place to be something greyness, everything black and white, and general misery, I suppose, but when we actually came around to getting there, things were, of course, a lot different from this. But it did take quite a while to get out of the image of winds whistling and snow blowing and being wet and cold and miserable, which we were prepared to be for this 3 months.
The decision to climb a mountain is one thing. To translate it into organized action is another. Yet here, 7,000 miles away from point of departure, is there 2 tons of supplies, 80 tins, tidally sorted into rations, enough for 8 men for 70 days. Even the 8 climbers themselves, neatly organized. The most woolly-headed climber has been transformed into an expedition man.
Our impressions of the valley were formed from photographs taken by the Swiss geologist Arnold Heim in 1939.
In a 3-day ferry operation, horses and men relayed the 2 tons of equipment and food to the Lake Leon. The horses carrying 200 pounds and the climbers with 60 pounds each load.
We can honestly say that we didn't have porters, but far be it from them to carry anything themselves. They put it all on their horses, and there was always a horse left over for them to ride while we galloped along in the background on foot.
it appeared that Heim had taken the photos of the mountains with a wide-angle lens, and in the reality the mountains were, seen from the same vantage point, were much higher and more impressive. The first day we got to the lake seemed like the culmination of the first part of the expedition, because at this point we no longer relied on other people's assistance. From here on we were entirely on our own. At this point we would use our boat to cross the lake and set up our base camp on the other side. So it was considered a big step. Leading the expedition is totally different to the sort of leadership that occurs in a war, because a war is essentially fought by a number of unthinking units of people who do exactly what they're told by a number of people above them, and whereas the expedition is the exact reverse. It's the coming together of a large number of individuals. Most of my experiences have shown that mountaineers subject to military type discipline do not enjoy themselves, and I know I certainly wouldn't.
While base camp was being established on a pleasant terrace near the head of the lake, reconnaissance parties began preliminary exploration of possible routes to the glacier. No feasible way could be seen directly above the icefall, and to reach the ice cap through the low saddles would involve days of tedious and dangerous load carrying. It is 7,000 feet to the skyline and another 5,500 to the summit of San Valentin. An alternate route was found through the bush, but even so, a month of load carrying lay ahead before the first climb could be attempted.
The Chilean climber Claudio Lucero was an experienced man who'd been on an expedition to the southern part of the ice cap with the Japanese.
He was compatible. He had a sense of humour and a way of looking at things, and a love for the mountains that we all shared.
Claudio was an extremely able wheedler. Many times we saw him procure things for the expedition with his glib Spanish tongue, which we could never have even asked for.